What's up, Kaye?
It's cracking.
So yeah, it's a blessing to have you here. Thank you for gracing me with your presence, your friendship, your mentorship.
Of course.
And I wanted to just introduce you to the people, because you know you be doing things for the people.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
So yeah, introduce yourself.
I thought that was your job.
You
said
right.
You wanted to introduce
You right.
yourself.
You right.
Do the.
Before we start, I'm gonna just say, kind of what my intention is. Like, I am a teacher, and I've been a teacher since like 2014, and I since stepped out of the traditional classroom. But my aim is to still impact young people, and yeah, we just have a lot of things going on in our community that we keep expecting large institutions and the government to solve, and it's like we can't. So I just really want to speak to young people. So my whole intention for teaching and going into that institution was to speak to young people, but again, it's the institution of the government, so it didn't align with me.
Right.
It wasn't for me, but I still wanted to speak to the kids. Sorry about that. And one of the things that stuck with a lot of my students, it's crazy because people are always watching you, but kids really watch you.
Absolutely.
So any health decision I would make for myself, they would be like, Miss Alfonso, what's that about? Or why you always eating so healthy? Why you always be drinking all of this water? Why you be putting lemons in your water? And so the whole time, they starting to pull up to class with big cups of water and lemon,
because they're the most impressionable.
So it's like they'll be like, why are you doing that? And then I tell them why I'm doing that. They're like, I want to do that too. I want to be healthy.
Makes sense.
And so they would always be asking, what you eating? What's that? And I wasn't even vegan yet. I was just starting to get, I was going towards my health journey though. And I was trying to be healthier. So yeah, I want to teach them, now that I'm fully vegan, I want them to experience, or at least have the information about it.
Okay.
And then again, to make their decisions how they want to. And even you and I talked earlier about, there's Dr. Sebi vegan, and then there's vegan, then there's unhealthy vegan. I think we sit nice in that vegan spot.
There's so many levels to
There's
that.
a lot
As a matter
of
of fact, I
levels.
was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. You have vegetarians, right, who was a totally different classification all on their own, right? Then, of course, just like anything else, politics, religion, you get that one person be like, yeah, I like this, but I don't like that, so I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to keep this, and I'm going to pick it up. And then you had a whole different version of people, right? I never even thought to look up the origin of the name vegan, but one day it just came to me, and I'm like, vegetarian humans put together came vegans, right? This is what I told myself. Is that true or not? I don't know, but it makes sense to me, right? Boom. So I'm like, okay, so now the vegans wanted to separate themselves because it's just like, okay, we're veg. We're that's our lifestyle, so we want to keep that. We're letting you know we're predominantly vegetable humans, right? So I'm like, okay, vegans, boom, makes sense to me, right? Makes sense? Okay. So I'm like, all right, so you got vegetarians over here. They're consuming dairy and, eggs and things of that nature. And there's exceptions for them. They just won't consume the flesh of meat. You know what I'm saying? But then vegans and then bona fide vegans, you take it as they don't want anything animal related. They won't wear the clothes, the leather shoes, they don't even consume honey from the bee. Me, I'm gonna have some honey because, the medicinal properties, I put it in my tea sometimes. Listen, that hardcore don't ridicule you, but and you got them, then you got raw. They don't believe in cooking the food over a certain temperature. Then you got plant-based, where it's we're not doing any processed anything. So all of the mock meats, all of that alternatives in the supermarket, they don't want parts of that. So it's levels to this, and then we're not even talking about pescatarians and omnivores and all those people and flexitarians. It just, the labels just go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. But then, like you said, then you got raw vegans. and you got the alkaline vegans, it's Dr. Sebi, and I'm just like, the research is so endless, cause you could be keto and vegan, you could be, you know what I'm saying, where it's just like, alright, you know, like, okay, then I read the book, like I told you before, you write for your blood type, so it's just like, alright, not all vegetables and fruits for my blood type, which is O positive, I should be consuming because it's not healthy for my blood type, right? Because my blood type, believe it or not, I'm supposed to be a meat eater because the differentiations like between some of them. So, for example, I produce a lot of acid in my stomach, so I have the acidity to break down the meat. That's O positive.
Oh.
Yeah. So I have a lot of acidity in my stomach, so I can break down the meat. So I'm supposed to be a meat eater. Now, blood type A, they're automatically supposed to be vegetarians because they have what? Minimal amounts of acidity, so they can't break down the meat like someone who's O positive. But remember I told you like my journey is you know, it's a personal transition for me, which is why it's so meaningful. You know, it wasn't for, oh, I need to lose weight or I'm gonna hop on this trend real quick.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't none of that. It was really started out as health reasons, and then it just transformed into a whole passion. So, you know, there's really levels to this, but it goes deep.
I mean, do you mind talking about your journey to veganism? Like, what made you turn vegan?
I definitely share that willingly. So, it started out early for me. Like, I'm 38 9, so, well, yeah, 38 now I should say, and this was like back freshman year high school. You know, we learned from early. Yeah, you learned from. Nah, not even. I would say freshman year high school. So I want to say this was like maybe 97. Yeah,
That's my big sis,
y'all.
Listen,
I'm trying. That's what we say, big sis, right? So, yeah. So you know, you do breast exams, you touch. I'm like, I don't seem like I got extras, you know what I mean? Like, what we talking about? So, I went to my mom about it, and she was like, huh. She was like, all right, make your appointment, you know. So, I went to see a breast specialist, and he was like, all right, if I put the needle in the cyst and fluid comes out, you won't have to have any surgery. But if no fluid comes out, then you're gonna have to have surgery. Just my luck, no fluid comes out. So now, freshman year in high school, I gotta have my first surgery ever in life. And that was scary to say the least, because it's just like, you know, now he's talking about if he doesn't do the surgery, it could then develop into cancer and all of these things. And so...
So is that what the cysts were? Like tumors?
It could have turned into it if I let it sit there. But at the time, it wasn't threatening, but it had the potential to become. So my aunt, who was a full-fledged vegan at the time, she had called to check on me one day, and she said, listen, we hearing so much right now with the chicken, and, you know, everything's running rampant with it, and hormones, and it has everything to do with what you're eating, you know. Because this is coming from a woman, like, bona fide Seventh-day Adventist Christian, so they take it back to Eden. Like, they're all about LNG, right? White, like, readings and writings.
What's LNG?
She's a prophetess, a Seventh-day Adventist Christian prophetess. So she has a lot of books out about, like, where you're supposed to live, how you raise your children, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So she has a book called Back to Eden, and it talks about the eating lifestyle of a Seventh-day Adventist Christian.
So, you know what's crazy? That's crazy, because my ex is a Seventh-day Adventist, and she wasn't vegan, but her and her mom, it's basically very clean. It's basically just fish. Like, it's mad clean. So it's funny that you say that. Okay. So that's like a thing in Seventh-day Adventist culture.
Yeah, because real practicing Seventh-day Adventist Christians, like, that's their eating lifestyle.
Why?
Like, because they believe in like nature provides all that you need.
So that's I never heard of that.
Fruits, nuts, grains, water, the sun, like those are the things that we need to sustain, and that's what they really believe in.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to like anything meat related, they'll take you back to the Bible a period of time. They're like, oh, but God gave the children of Israel meat to eat. But they're like, yeah, but it was only temporary because they were in a land of famine, and they needed something to eat, so that's why he provided it to them. But y'all went and y'all took it to a whole nother level.
Y'all eat this shit every day.
And because of greed, he started making it come through the people's nose. Like, it's in the Bible, and it talks about that whole thing. And people would never seperate themselves from that. Like, that's a whole thing. Like, I'm telling you, the Bible. The greatest story
I need to get a notebook for
this
interview.
Listen, we gonna talk today. We gonna talk today. A lot of people wouldn't even know that I'm versed so much when it comes to Seventh-day Adventist Christianity, because I was raised in the church my entire life, you know, and it was great. Don't get me wrong. Like, I wouldn't change my upbringing for anything.
I didn't even know you was a Seventh-day Adventist or grew up that way, right?
Yeah, but it has a lot to do with my development too, like in my character. Like, it all started from within the church. So, you know, just my love for humanity and you know, nature, and you know, the foods that I eat, and making sure that I live right and I practice what I preach, and making sure making sure that my body is my temple. Of course, they wouldn't disagree. They would probably disagree with me with that, because you'd be like, oh, you got tattoos on your body as a type. Like, my mom would come to me still now. She'd be like, stop marking up your skin. And I'm like, Mommy, we sharing a body? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Last time I checked. I checked.
I told the other day, I said, listen, I'm gonna get one last one that's gonna say mommy across my neck. She started like, yo, I love bothering my mother. Yeah. It's so funny.
That's honestly the best way to do a Caribbean parent. That's how my twin brother did it. His first tattoo said mommy.
See?
Oh no, it said Sharon. Because what you gonna say?
Exactly. Like, but yeah, so, you know, she said, you know, it's in the food, and you just definitely gotta change your lifestyle. So for me, you know, I've always been advanced for my age. You know, it doesn't really take much to convince me when it's rational. So, you know, she made it make sense, and I'm just like, valid point. It's either I'm gonna let this continue to be a reoccurring problem, or I'm gonna just let this be the resolve. So just like that, I was like, I clipped it. I just stopped eating meat. And I was never really a big meat eater like that anyway. Yeah. My struggle was probably the chicken, but after a while, you know, with everything that you do consistently, it becomes a practice. And then the practice becomes a behavior, and the behavior just turns into a lifestyle.
I have a question. So around what year is this?
What's that?
That you decided, like, I'm clipping it, I'm gonna be a vegan.
Oh, it was that same time that I had
like 97?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like 1997.
Yep.
It's like
I'm 15 at this time. Yeah, 15 years old.
Okay, so it's like 1997, right? And you in school. What are you eating? What you ate?
But remember, I'm at a Seventh-day Adventist school.
I didn't know that. So I'm thinking.
My mom was serious about that. She said, oh,
shit.
We live this life, so I want you in an environment that continuously teaches you what you learn and what you know. Like, she didn't want me in a regular school. So she's like, oh, we want you in the educational system that's going to continue to incorporate religion into your education. So that was actually one of my graduation requirements from junior high.
What?
I had to learn, like, the 10 Commandments, the what is it, I forget what they call it, but it's the 3 angels' messages. It's this whole, like, segment in Revelation that you had to learn. I forgot how many chapters it is, but it's just like you had to learn it, and they took you out one by one, and they made you recite all of these different scriptures from the top. You had to know every single book of the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, all the books in the Old Testament, all the books in the New Testament, and it had to be in order.
You still know?
Nah, I'm not even gonna lie to you on that one. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you on that one. I'm like, whew, there's some in the middle that I'm missing, but and it's so funny because they wanted me to spit it to them in the order that it is in the Bible, but the Bible wasn't written in the order in which it's put together. Now? Yeah, like it's really not. As a matter of fact, it's backwards.
It started with Revelations?
No, like, even though it started like Old Testament with New Testament, there's still segments that from the back of the book that it's all mixed up. Yeah.
I wonder what that's
you had to learn what was the shortest, what was the shortest book of the Bible, what was the longest book, like what's the shortest chapter, what was the shortest verse, like they went deep into it. But that was my whole life though. So it was just like after a while I'm like, there gotta be more out here than just this church thing. Like, what's out there? Like, why y'all don't want me to know what's out there? Like, just pulled the blinds off one day and was like, I'm going outside. I just peeled off and never looked back. Like, I had fun with it for what it was, but I feel like had I not separated myself from the church, I would have never really truly found myself. I would have just been living a life that other people wanted me to live. Yeah.
So, you went to Seventh-day Adventist School up till grade 12?
Nah. Up until 9th grade. So freshman year high school. Because they have a high school. So they have a elementary school, junior high, and then they have a high school.
But you left.
Yeah, because like right around sophomore year high school, my family moved to Long Island. So I started at a totally different school. And it wasn't even like a regular high school either. It was like Suffolk County, Long Island, in like a ritzy area, Dix Hills. Like kids was driving BMWs to school. Like I was like, I'm used to the train. The number one take me everywhere I need to go. Like, I'm like, what are we talking about here? But it was different. But it didn't really take me long to meet people. Like, you know, because I showed up there looking different automatically. Like for the first time I didn't have to do uniform.
So you like, I'm stepping out.
I'm coming with the New York fire, and they looking at me like, you're not from here, are you? Like, I'm like, nope, surely not. Like the minute they find out that you're from New York, they always want to, oh, I got this cousin in Brooklyn. Like I'll be in Brooklyn all the time, and I go to Queens on the weekend.
Are you from Brooklyn?
Nah, that's just what they would tell me. Like we used to live in Manhattan, like uptown 158 on Roosevelt.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's like my old stomping ground. But yeah, man. We moved out to Long Island and everything was different.
Yeah.
Like,
were you guys still going to Seventh-day Adventist church?
Yeah. Funny enough, like.
And that's on Saturdays? Okay, so
even that, because I was so submerged in the church, like I knew Saturdays were restricted. You weren't allowed to do certain things from sundown to sundown. So Friday night or not even Friday night because the sun set earlier during the winter hours. So whatever sunset was on a Friday evening to the next day sunset, you weren't allowed to do certain things.
Like the Sabbath, like y'all Jewish.
Absolutely.
So is Seventh-day Adventist culture like Judaism? Or
to some degree.
Okay.
I think if I had to really pinpoint the major difference, other than the language and the way that they dress and how they live their lifestyle, it's as far as doctrine go, they don't acknowledge the New Testament. I mean, they don't.
Okay,
they live by the Old Testament, and Seventh-day Adventist Christians, they recognize the New Testament because they're all about prophecy and the second coming and all those things. Judaism, you're not going to hear about that.
Sun to sundown, what are you allowed to do?
Honestly, just worship, commune. That is that's your time for prayer and just really like making your connection to God. And sometimes you fast because they feel.
I'm about to ask, can you eat?
Yeah, you can eat unless you made the decision to fast. Yeah, okay. Or if like say the church in themselves were utilizing this Sabbath or this day to have like fasting and prayer. They believe that once you're not so weighted by food, like that's your clarity or your moment where you can really connect with God because you're not really focused on the food. A lot of times they feel like like how when you eat you get the itis, like all you would think about is sleeping.
Depending on what you eat.
That part too. So they just felt like if you didn't eat, you could be a little more focused, you know what I mean? Like, so.
I think that's interesting too because I feel like a lot of, I'm not sure if it was a black church, but I feel like a lot of black culture, right? Is Seventh-day Adventist a black thing?
It's actually multicultural.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So, but yeah, a lot of black churches are very focused on feeding everybody. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's very food focused, and us eat a bunch of food, and it doesn't matter what kind of food it is. So the fact that Seventh-day Adventist is like, we can eat, but it's gonna be healthy.
Right.
It's gonna be healthy, and we're thinking about the words that's in the Bible, where it's like, we're not gonna be greedy, we're not gonna eat this kind of animal. So that's really interesting.
Funny enough, though, I will admit, people who don't really follow the true teachings, they deviate from that, because I remember being at church sometime, people warming up their lunch, it'd be curry chicken. I just be like, what is happening here?
So you couldn't really eat chicken as Seventh-day Adventist?
They did eat it, but again, if you talking about you following the true teachings, like, that's not supposed to be something that you could consume. Perfect example, how you compared it to Judaism? The Jews do not deviate from what they're supposed to eat.
So far as we know.
That part.
Right.
It's the same thing with Seventh-day Adventist.
Right.
It's gotta be kosher, it's gotta be this, that, third, It's the same thing with Seventh-day Adventist, but again, it's just like people pick apart
what they
want all across the board. That happens all the time with everything.
Yeah, that's a fact. Even how we talked about, I haven't really said this to you, but when you talk about how I take from religions, like, that's what I say, like, because, this is fire, this is fire, this is fire. I don't necessarily feel locked down to one thing, and I feel like all these religions are really saying the same thing.
Absolutely.
But for some reason, people who are leaders of certain religions decide to vilify other religions for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I'm just not on that. Like, I think that's very weird.
You know what it is? We live in a society that's just based on
Violence.
classification.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah, I'm down. I just brought it straight to violence.
No, you're right though.
They like to classify so that they can have a reason to fucking be violent towards it.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because again, like, we all know hate and racism that's taught. You know what I mean? Because you watch kids all the time. Kids will teach you all you need to know. You know what I mean? The innocence and the purity that comes with the child. But we get older to a certain point where along the way we adapt certain behaviors and lifestyles, and we pick from this and that person, and this one's telling you this thing and that, and then next thing you know, you grow
I'm an adult, I don't like this, and I don't like this person, I don't like these kinds of people.
Yep. And now we have another jerk in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that whole conditioning. But you're fortunate to have some people that will break that cycle, and then you have those that will continue to perpetuate that,
So are Seventh-day Adventists vegan?
They're supposed to be, yeah.
They are.
But remember, they were always labeled as vegetarians, like the original, like, vegetarians.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you stayed in Seventh-day Adventist School till 9th grade. What was like a typical meal? And okay, so was lunch vegan for everybody all the time, every day at school? What are they serving y'all in 1997 as a vegan?
Okay.
As a vegan school, everybody's eating vegan food.
Yeah.
Vegan, not vegetarian. Like, everybody's eating vegan food in 97.
Pretty much for the well, actually, let me not say that because I'm listening to what you said. They were serving vegetarian food.
Okay.
Yeah, they were doing the dairy, but they weren't doing any of the meat. Like, they would have like pizza, or they'll have they'll give you milk with your lunch. It might be rice and beans, or like stuffed eggshells, like the ricotta cheese.
Facts.
But again, so my mom being my mom, she's like, listen,
my daughter can't eat this.
I know you said she's approved for this lunch, right? For this free school lunch, but she can't have this and she can't have that. And they're like, well, this is what it is. And in order for her to get this lunch, she got to drink this milk. And so my mom's like, well, why can't she just have this and maybe a juice or something? Like, what's the big deal? And they're like, she got to have this milk. My mom was like, well, then you could hold all of that. Yo, my mom woke up every morning and packed my lunch for me religiously. I was coming to school with like loaded sandwiches. I'm talking about Tupperware with like dinners, like for lunch. I'm talking about rice and peas with like some vegan meat and vegetables, and on the cold days, she's sending me with the thermos with the chili and the rice, and all of my friends are watching me like this, like.
What is vegan? What was vegan meat in 1997? So why I'm so amazed at this is, I mean, I'm Jamaican too, like you. So I'm Jamaican and Trini, but I really was raised like Jamaican.
Gotcha.
I grew up with my mother, and just seeing my Trini family on holidays type shit. So, and it's not to say that there's not like, now that I know now, like, but there's little vegan staples in Caribbean food, but it wasn't given that. You feel me? So 97, I'm like 5, right? So like, that's how early I'm like, fix this for it. But like, I'm like 5 and Mom, like, let's go and make that. First of all, I don't even really eat like that. But when I do eat, it's like it's crazy to think about the shit that we used to eat. Cause my mom is she was basically a single mom with 3 kids.
Okay.
And so now as an adult, I understand how hard it is to just take care of yourself, period. Much less 3 other young people. That shit is difficult. So, with that being said, she had a system. Thursday is for pizza. Lit. New York pizza, 90s, fire. Amazing. Lit. Fridays is for Chinese food.
Okay.
And then Saturday morning, we probably having leftovers. Like, to think about that shit now is crazy.
Mom did what she had to do.
Mom definitely did what she had to do, but I'm like, I wanted McDonald's all the time. I definitely was eating all the pizza or whatever the fuck I was doing. I wasn't eating much. I wasn't eating much until my mother sent me away to Jamaica. Okay. And then her sister, you know how Jamaicans do it, like, if you don't eat, like, you're not getting up from the table.
Discipline.
That's it. I'm not mad at it, but yeah, I had to eat all the porridge. And so I came back and I was like, I had an appetite, and I'm like, I was getting force fed and I was getting my ass beat, so I started to eat more.
Protein.
Yeah, it's
Don't
crazy.
Do that to your kids.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
But I did eat more. Listen, whatever works for every different folks with different strokes. I'm not gonna act like my mom was like abusing me, but it was, she grew up. She was born in like 1940 something in Jamaica. Jamaica's already a third world country, and it's just like behind, I guess, on how we're going to rear our children. So, and just a bunch of other things, but that was her methods. Like, I have to eat it. I have to.
Right.
And now I feel like that's not cool, but then it was what had to be done, and if she didn't do it, I don't know if I would be eating.
Yeah.
So, but before I went to Jamaica, when I was 5 in 97, she would order the Chinese food. I would just eat like the chicken skin. And to think about it now is gross, but I wouldn't really eat the chicken. I would just kind of like nibble on this, nibble on that. I was very skinny or maga, as Jamaicans say. I was very maga. I was little. Or if we get McDonald's, I would just eat the fries, or I would eat some of the pizza. I would never finish my food or really eat much of my food.
I think that's a lot of kids though that age. Like,
could be. My brothers used to eat their food. My brother was like my twin was my size. He was eating. I just really wasn't eating.
Okay.
I just wanted to like drink juice and like just turn up, watch TV all day, cartoons.
You was turning up at 5.
Whatever that looked like for a 5-year-old. Give me the juice. Give me the juice. Man. But yeah, so like the thought of the concept of like healthy food or what that even looked like I can't say right now that my mom was making mad salads. Like, I don't think I don't think she was doing that. Right. So yeah, like what is vegan meat in 97? Like, where do you even go and get that?
So again, like, so in the Back to Eden teachings, they talk about like just, your regular.
Back to Eden is your aunt's book.
Yeah, anybody could read, but that's Ellen G. White's book.
Ellen G?
Yeah, Ellen G. White.
Ellen G. White.
Yeah, called Back to Eden. And it talks about, just...
Ellen G. White is your aunt?
No, that's the author, the prophetess of that book.
Oh, and it's the book that your aunt pushed you onto.
So, it talks about just your basic